2 points from defeat, in a set she was supposed to have already won. Alex Eala stood at 4-all in the second set, watching Alycia Parks unload another ace past her. It was the 10th of the match. The American had just saved 4 break points in a row to hold serve, and now she was 2 games from forcing a decider, the same decider that, 7 months earlier, had ended in heartbreak. Eala had been here before, against this exact opponent on a different continent. That day, she'd won the first set 6-0 and lost the match anyway. Now, in Toronto, the pattern was threatening to repeat itself in real time, in front of a crowd that had shown up by the thousands just to watch her keep climbing. 3 days earlier, she had been a champion for the first time in her life. Now she needed to prove it wasn't a fluke starting immediately, against the one player who already knew exactly how to beat her. There was no easing back into competition, no lesser opponent to find her rhythm against. Tennis had handed her the one name capable of unraveling everything she'd just built, and it had done so within 72 hours. To understand why that mattered so much, you have to go back to Washington first. Eala walked into the Mubadala City DC Open as a talented outsider respected, dangerous on her day, but not yet a champion. Over the course of 1 week, she beat 4 of the toughest names on the entire tour, one after another, and each win raised the question of whether the next one would finally be the wall she couldn't get past. First, Olympic gold medalist Qinwen Zheng. Then defending champion Leylah Fernandez. Then second seed Alina Svitolina. Then 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka. 4 different styles, 4 different kinds of danger. Nothing stopped her. In the final, she ran into top seed Jessica Pegula, and for a set, it looked like the run might end there after all. Pegula took the first 6-4. Then the rain came. Play was suspended with Eala up 2-1 in the second set, and the final didn't resume until the following day, an entire night for the tension to build, for a nation of fans to refresh their phones and wait for a match that had simply stopped mid-sentence. When the players finally came back out, Eala finished what she'd started. 6-4, 6-0. 6 straight games to close it out, with nothing left to decide. It made her the first player from the Philippines, man or woman, to win a WTA Tour level singles title. It also, on paper, put her inside the world's top 20 for the first time in her career. "It's an incredible milestone for me," she told reporters afterward. "At the beginning of the week, there's no way I'd have thought that I'd be holding this trophy. These things creep up on you, and I hold these moments really close to me." She called the tournament a very steep hill, the competition brutal, the draw unkind, every match its own separate obstacle to climb. What mattered to her, she said, wasn't just the trophy but the way she'd kept improving from match to match, learning something new about her own game each time she walked off the court. Even her opponent in the final noticed it. "It's amazing that you guys showed up," Pegula said afterward, addressing the Filipino fans who had packed the stands in Washington. "You are helping grow tennis around the world, and I appreciate that." Tournament director Mark Ein put a number to the phenomenon. Over the final month of ticket sales, he said, at least 80% of the inquiries his office fielded were some version of the same question: when is Alex Eala playing? None of it happened quietly. Back home, President Ferdinand Marcos posted his congratulations within a day, calling it yet another historic achievement and crediting her with redefining what's possible for Philippine tennis. Manny Pacquiao, the last Filipino athlete to command this kind of national attention, called her our new champion on social media. It wasn't the first time that comparison had been made. Tennis had never really been a Filipino sport. Basketball, billiards, and boxing had always come first, the 3 Bs that defined the country's sporting identity for generations. Eala was rewriting that list in real time, and the momentum behind her had already been building for a month since Wimbledon, where she'd upset defending champion Iga Swiatek in straight sets on center court, and gone further at a major than any Filipina in history. Fans back home had stayed up through the night to watch it happen on the other side of the world. And when she finally did come home, it was to a reception hosted in her honor at Malacanang Palace. So when Eala landed in Toronto barely a day after her Washington final, She wasn't just another seed filling out a draw. She was the story of the summer. And the National Bank Open knew it. Her opening match was moved off the 2,800-seat grandstand and onto center court to handle demand that organizers hadn't planned for. The tournament added Filipino food to its concessions for the first time in its history. "It's been an amazing 24 hours for me," Eala admitted in her pre-tournament press conference, still visibly working through the whirlwind. "So many emotions, so many things to process, and processing the transition from one tournament to another. I'm very excited to reset and be here in Toronto for the first time." She was seeded 25th, carrying a first-round bye earned by her ranking jump, and waiting for her in the second round was a name every Filipino tennis fan already knew far too well. Alycia Parks. World No. 71. The player who had ended Eala's Grand Slam debut at the Australian Open back in January, and not gently. Eala had come out of the gate that day and blitzed the first set 6-0. The kind of statement start that makes a crowd believe the match is already decided. It wasn't. Parks found her range. Her serve, one of the heaviest on the entire tour, started landing in spots Eala simply couldn't reach, and her ground strokes started finding the lines instead of the net. Parks took the next two sets 6-3 and 6-2, and Eala's first taste of major tournament tennis ended in a loss nobody in the crowd at Melbourne Park saw coming. She posted a photo of herself smiling anyway, with a caption about staying grateful for the chance to live out the dream, even on the days that don't go your way. "I think I've improved as a player if you compare now to the beginning of the year," she said months later, a simple sentence that, by August, had quietly become an understatement. Now the two of them were sharing a court again, and this time there was no such thing as a routine match. Toronto's center court was packed with Filipino fans who had turned out in numbers organizers hadn't fully anticipated. This was Eala's tournament debut in the city, and it felt, in every way except geography, like a home match. She started like she meant to erase January entirely. Eala broke Parks twice in the opening set, never once faced a breakpoint of her own, and closed it out 6-1 in a hurry, 5 straight games won from a 1-1 tie. It was the kind of start that makes a crowd start planning the celebration early. The comfort didn't last. Parks dug in. She survived 2 shaky service games early in the second set, saved 4 breakpoints in a row to hold it 3-2, and then found her serve completely 10 aces in that set alone. A wall Eala couldn't find a way through. In the 10th game, Parks broke Eala's serve to close it out 6-4 and send the match to a decider. For a moment, the shape of Melbourne was reappearing, almost point for point. A dominant first set from Eala, a resurgent American finding her rhythm at exactly the wrong time, and a third set that would decide everything, with a packed house holding its breath. But this version of Eala had already survived 2 of the toughest days of her career just to get here. She broke immediately to open the third set, building a 2-0 lead, and then Parks answered right back, breaking her in turn to level things at 2 apiece. The match had turned into precisely what everyone in that stadium feared: a coin flip, with every single point carrying the weight of the whole tournament behind it. And then it stopped being close. Eala won the last 4 games of the match in a row, breaking Parks' serve twice more on her way to a 6-2 final set. She finished the match having earned 14 breakpoints to Parks' 2, converting 5 of them, a number that tells you how much pressure she'd actually applied, even during the stretches where the scoreboard didn't yet show it. The final line: 6-1, 4-6, 6-2. A win, but not an easy one. A 3-set battle that mirrored her Australian Open loss almost beat for beat, right up until the moment the ending changed. There was no time to sit with it, either. 2 days after lifting her first trophy, she had already played a 3-set war and come out the other side of it. Waiting for her in the third round was Caddy McNally, an American in career-best form who had just upset Wimbledon champion Linda Noskova in straight sets, saving 2 set points along the way. And later that same week, a different kind of reunion was already on the schedule. Eala was set to team up with Venus Williams in doubles, the 7-time Grand Slam champion she'd partnered with back in June at the Bad Homburg Open, where the pair had reached the quarterfinals together in their very first outing as a team. Eala had chosen to skip the doubles draw in Washington entirely, A deliberate decision to protect her energy for the singles field. It paid off with a trophy. In Toronto, title already in hand, she and Williams were scheduled to share a court again on center court, against Miyu Kato and Ludmila Samsonova, in front of the same crowd that had just watched her survive Parks. Every opportunity I get to share the court with her is super cherished, Eala had said of playing alongside Williams, because she's got a great mentality and there's so much I can learn from her. What Eala did in Toronto wasn't a clean, tidy revenge story. It was messier than that and more honest for it. She didn't erase the Australian Open by dominating from start to finish. She erased it by living through the exact same collapse and recover shape of that match, point by point, set by set, and finding a different answer when it mattered in the final set. That is a harder thing to do than simply winning comfortably. It means the improvement she talked about back in January isn't theoretical anymore. It's something she can point to on a scoreboard, in the same city, against the same opponent, months later. From painted-over basketball courts in Quezon City, to a scholarship at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Spain at just 13 years old, to a sitting president posting about her by name, this has never really been a story that slows down long enough for anyone to catch their breath, Eala included. I don't really like to put a kind of cap on what I'm able to do, she said earlier this year. And it has held up under every test since. 3 days after her first title, on a court that felt like home 4,000 miles from it, she backed that up the hard way, not by making it look easy, but by proving she could win even when it wasn't. And the week wasn't done with her yet. By the time the Parks match ended, Eala hadn't even played every match she was scheduled for. The doubles reunion with Venus Williams was still ahead of her. The third round against Caddy McNally was still ahead of her. And somewhere beyond both of those, the US Open was waiting. That's the part of this story that's easy to miss in the noise of one dramatic scoreline. The celebration never really gets a full night. The very same relentlessness that carried her through Washington's rain delay and Toronto's decider is the thing now being asked of her again, almost immediately, with barely a day to reset in between. That's what makes this stretch of her career worth watching so closely. Not one signature win, but the refusal to let any single result, good or bad, be the last word. Whatever the US Open holds, it's worth staying close to see how it unfolds. Because a run like this one doesn't announce when it's finished. It just keeps going until someone finally stops it. And so far in 2026, nobody has.